Okay. So first off, I want to get to know you, and I want to just get some background questions from you, see where you're coming from. Were you born
Okay.
and raised in Oakland?
I was born, yeah, I'm from the Bay. I grew up, actually, went to school in Piedmont. So if you're familiar with Piedmont, it's like a
Hmm.
really wealthy little enclave in Oakland. It's a separate city. It's super segregated. Um, but yeah, I mean, I'm from here. My mom grew up in Oakland. My grandfather immigrated to Oakland when he was a son, like a little boy.
Hmm.
And so like kind of my experience growing up in one world and seeing the dichotomy between the two worlds definitely like influenced the work that I'm doing now.
Okay. Well, did you like? You said you went to school in Piedmont, which is like a way nicer neighborhood. Did you like ever experience having outdoor activities when you went to school? Like, did you guys go
Yeah,
on field trips? Did you go to parks and whatnot?
totally. Growing up, yeah, I mean like uh as a part of school, we had like a little park right near our school. There's definitely more green spaces in Piedmont. It's like they've got the trees, they got the parks, they got all that stuff. And then but also like my family, my mom was always like super into the outdoors. She would always take us hiking, camping. So I would say even more than like it's just my parents really influenced my ability to be outside, and they would always like get us outside and get us doing stuff.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, that's good. Lucky you.
Yeah, totally.
So you think that's what inspired you to like get into the program of the Oakland Leaf program?
Yeah, so like the interesting thing about the journey to like uh gardens and plants was not like I was more excited about like ecology, like being in the forest and in the mountains and at the ocean and like all of like Earth's natural ecosystems, like super excited me and got me really like inspired to learn more. And so I went to college to kind of learn more about like environmental studies and stuff, but I soon learned that like, it's not like I don't know, it's just really disconnected same way. The environmental movement's hella disconnected to like people's realities, and it's very privileged, and it's very it's like not very diverse, right? So um I got really interested in food at the same time, like personally, like through like my spiritual side, and kind of like exploring how our relationship to our food also kind of informs our like consciousness and how we are as beings, right? And then I also realized or I learned that to have the biggest impact on land is to like really influence how food is being grown, because the majority of the land being used in the world is for food production. So we really want to like change our ecology and our environment. We need to change how we're growing food. And so it's like connecting the like energy and spirit of food with the ecology and the environment, and then also the social justice side of things, like access to healthy affordable foods and green spaces kind of landed me in Oakland Leaf.
Okay, so that's like the avenue that's the avenue that got you there, like the food, the health in the food and how it's grown and everything. Okay, that's really interesting. Okay. All right.
Yeah, it, yeah.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. Yeah, yeah. That's
it,
pretty cool. So in your words, like I kind of read up on Oakland Leaf, but it's like it seemed like a really broad statement. What, like in your words, what does Oakland Leaf represent?
Oakland Leaf, what does it represent? That's a great question. I mean, Oakland Leaf has a lot of different things that we kind of do, right? I mean, ultimately, it's all about community transformation through education, and that's like our motto, right? Community transformation through creative education. Really, I feel like my program, Love Cultivated Schoolyards, we really sought to like redefine. Well, it's kind of evolved over the years. Ultimately in the beginning, it was about creating like a really thriving garden at Ascend, which was the first school that we had a garden at. it's like super in the Fruitvale, right under the BART, right next to the BART station, right near the train track, super
I think
urban,
I know what you're talking
super
about.
loud. You know it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's like pretty intense right there. And so we sought to just create like a little ecological oasis in the concrete schoolyard. And so, you know, through that I developed like relationship with a lot of young folks, and then really developed this internship program because I wanted to like continue to stay connected with our young folks, and thought like what a better way to do it than to have them working maintaining the gardens, because we needed the help. I needed the help to maintain the gardens. They needed the money for a job, and it kind of like, so that's how our internship developed.
Plus, it's therapeutic.
But exactly. So then through that, we like started to, you know, it started to grow, and so we were able to explore all the other elements of like gardening and youth development work through gardening. And so Oakland Leaf really seeks to like have impact in the community, to support community, to teach our young folks, to create opportunities for our young folks to authentically like experience leadership development, and then like ultimately have community impact.
Okay. And I was reading that you guys are like specifically in East Oakland, right?
We're only in East Oakland, yeah.
Okay, that's good because East Oakland's the one that needs the most help.
And yeah, for sure. You want to say hey?
All right,
Yeah.
how long have you been in the program for?
For 15 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so it's been a long time. I've grown a lot through, you know, the years. The program's changed tremendously.
Yeah, you've really
And
seen the
so
progression of it.
yeah, so we like started, you know, I basically started one day a week at ETHN for 2 hours, like teaching a class. And then it evolved, and now we're at like 6 different schools. We're doing all this work. We have all these interns. I have 5 staff. It's like big deal. So the work we're doing now through the pandemic has been all about distributing the food. So we really got good at growing the food, but we soon realized like we don't have good systems to get the food to the people. You know, we have all these communities at the schools that we work at. So how are we going to get this fresh organic food to our community? And so we're developing different models of doing that. And so we're exploring one called a CSA. I don't know if you're familiar with that.
Mm-mm.
It's basically a community supported agriculture. That's what it stands for. And the concept is that like people subscribe to these boxes. So so we create boxes of all of our produce, and then we give it to folks or we sell it, however the model is. In Oakland Leaf, we give it away. And so people get a box, you know, and so we're currently developing that at Castlemont High School, where people can sign up, and there's a tiered payment system. People can self-identify, you know, where they kind of fit in the economic model, and they can choose to pay what they feel like they can afford. Nobody's turned away. It's all about access. So that's the model we're trying to run right now.
That's great. That's really great.
Yeah, it's exciting.
And what age groups do you guys work with? Like high schoolers, right? Just high school.
Mainly high school, but we're in the elementary and middle schools as well. So we work with anywhere from kindergarten all the way to 12th grade. We're like
I have a question. Do you guys work with Sequoia?
We don't work with Sequoia.
Okay, all right. I was just curious.
They do have a fat garden. I know they have a nice garden.
Yeah, because I went to Sequoia and they had a little garden. And that's why I was
cool.
asking. Yeah.
Yeah, we only are in the schools that Oakland Leaf runs program at. So Sequoia's not one of those schools.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So wow, you've been there for a really long time. All right. So like what changes have you seen amongst the youth? If any?
Amongst the youth?
Yeah.
You know, like I would just say like the thing that I'm constantly amazed at is how what's the word? It's like how inspired our young people are. You know, like we're doing through the pandemic. We're doing these. We haven't been able to run program as like effectively, right? Just because of safety.
Yeah.
So we've been developing home garden kits for our interns, where basically we provide them with all the supplies, and the goal is for them to grow gardens at home, like investing in our folks and where they live. And so that's been really dope, like to see how some of them have really taken it to the next level on their own has been really exciting. I mean, everyone has a different living situation, so that makes it a little challenging, right? Where like some people have backyards, other people don't. So how do we do it in a way that's not like making people feel like they can't participate because of their limitations or whatever?
Yeah.
But just to see them taking the ownership has been really dope. And then they've also been developing like our flyers for our outreach for the CSA. They've been recruiting. They've been doing how-to videos to educate community on like how to do, how to plant seeds, how to grow plants, how to do all this stuff. So I would just say like I'm constantly impressed by our young folks. For a lot of them, this is like their first real time engaging with the earth like this, growing plants. And a lot of them are just like totally running it. It's really cool.
That's great. Have you seen any changes in them? Like, because I've read a lot of articles saying like it brings a lot of mental health to people, mindfulness, all that stuff.
Yeah.
Have you seen those
Yeah.
differences in the students?
I mean, yeah, yes, for sure. Like we would have students, especially when we were holding program after school, like a lot of times we'd have students who would show up and they'd be feeling down. They'd be having headaches. They'd be feeling funky, right? They'd have all these like physical ailments, emotional, they'd be struggling. And then at the end, we always start program in circle and we end it in circle. And at the end, like so many times, people would always be like, I feel so much better. I feel relaxed. My headache's gone. I'm in a better mood, like all these types of things. And I think a lot of it is like, interacting with the earth. Like obviously there's like physiological things that happen in our bodies when we touch earth and touch plants. But a lot of it too is like being in community, working with folks to accomplish a goal, being a part of something that's bigger than yourself. I think for a lot of them, that's huge, especially during the pandemic. Like we're so isolated and we're just home all the time. To be a part of something that's like having a community impact has been really good for them.
I didn't even think about that in regards to the pandemic. Yeah, you're right. You're right.
Yeah, it's been hard. Like I know a lot of our folks are really struggling, whether it be like physically with what they need, whether it be like losing folks, or just the emotional burden of this pandemic has been really severe.
Not even that, just I think kids are really losing out on socialization, which is really important.
You're right.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Have you seen have you noticed any specific patterns in regards to like gender or race or age? Like, do you see like the younger kids grasp onto it more, like in comparison to high schoolers, or like girls or boys, or like certain races who struggle with it more? Or do you notice like any patterns? I know that's a really big question.
Yeah. Oh, it's a really good question. And obviously, like my experience is gonna be, biased, right, because of this what it is. But yes, definitely have noticed patterns. When we started the internship, I basically recruited young men to work with me because those were the guys who I had the relationships with. And for a long time, for a couple of years, our program was predominantly like young men.
Really?
And then we had this huge. Yeah, well, it was just all about the. So I also coach soccer. And so I would recruit a lot of my soccer players to come work with me in the summer or work with us during the school year. And so, that was how I got all the young men to work with us. But once we kind of opened it up and started just, we had more space for more interns and recruiting, I noticed that it was like definitely it was way more young women who were coming out and applying and sticking it through. Like, so there's gender imbalance, We have way more females than males. And also, we've noticed that our program has struggled retaining like African American young youth. We're pretty much like Latino. So
Really?
we've identified. What's that?
I said really. It's just
Oh yeah.
I could see that. I just feel like African students are probably the ones who need it most.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think it's complicated, and so that's kind of why I say like our experience is not necessarily representative of what everyone's experience is. I think our organization is predominantly Latino, and I think that when there's not like Black leadership, it really has impact. I have a lot of Latino staff, former interns who are now staff, and I think that helps with our Spanish-speaking population. I mean, I speak Spanish, but I think it's like
With the networking and
like
connecting, it makes it more difficult when you don't have that representation.
yeah, definitely. So I think that's definitely an issue that we've identified, and we need to figure out. Yeah.
What about different schools? Have you noticed that certain schools grasp on more than others?
Yeah. No bother. Can you hold on 1 second?
Yeah.
Go. Why don't you go upstairs? Sorry, my
It's
son. He's
okay.
getting ready for his nap. Yes, I think that like school culture. So it's really also very interesting. I'm trying to get you out of the sun so that you can kind of see. The culture of the daytime at the school definitely had huge impact on who comes to our program. So we're at Castlemont High School, and on that campus, there's also a charter school called Leadership Prep High School. I'm not sure if you're familiar at all with any of them.
I know.
So the charter school is predominantly Latino. They have a lot more resources to support students. There's all these issues right now with charter versus public schools. And so when we recruited at both schools, we had a significantly bigger turnout at the LPS, at the charter school. Whether that be because they had teachers who were advocating, whether that be just because it's the culture of the school or because those students have more support at home. Like, it's hard to say, but I definitely noticed that schools that have, more support during the day, we get more of their students, and their students stay with us. Schools that the culture is like not as strong, we may get the students, but then they'll leave after a month or 2 months or whatever. So for us, we want to go deep with our interns. So we're looking to get recruit folks and retain them, and not just have people come in and leave and then get new people. Like we basically, the way we approach it is we have a cohort, and then we want to keep them together, till they graduate.
Yeah, you want to keep a community. You want to give them a sense of community, like a safe haven.
Yeah.
Okay. What do you guys how have you faced any backlash in the academia world? And when I say academia, I'm talking about staff boards, district school boards. Have you faced any issues with them in your programs?
In the what world?
The academia world of teachers, principals, and outreaching to networking and all that. Have you faced any struggles with that or anything?
I mean, yeah, that's a good question. I think to be honest, the biggest struggles have been with dealing with school district bureaucracies, right? So our school district has a division called Buildings and Grounds, and they're basically historically have been in charge of dealing with the grounds, which is landscaping and maintenance, right? So they're kind of their approach, what they're used to doing is they call it mow and blow, they're used to just coming, mowing, blowing the weeds, spraying the weeds with chemicals, cutting the plants to make them look very square and neat. And so our approach has been totally different, right? Well, we're trying to restore ecology, and encourage diversity. And so they don't really like the aesthetic of our gardens. There was, in the beginning, it was a lot worse. Now I don't really deal with them like that, but they were always threatening to cut down our stuff and threatening us because, you know, we were bringing in rats, or it was a fire hazard to have piles of wood chips, or whatever like reason they could harass us. They used to harass us. They've sprayed Roundup on our grapes before and killed our grapes, and so there's all these issues. And so, you know, basically it's just all about figuring out how to navigate that without giving in, but also without like isolating yourself, right? Because some of it, like, you have to give and you have to push a little bit. So that's been the hardest thing, I think, in terms of like during school, is like administrators and teachers don't understand. Well, schools that want to get their students to engage in the gardens don't understand how much work is required to do it. Not only to plan the lessons, but to prepare the materials and the expertise and the knowledge that's required. And so that's been a real issue that it's kind of been hard to figure out, because, you know, like, schools think that we should be providing the service, like we should be able to host their classes for during the day and like create activities for their students, but then they don't want to pay us to do that work.
That's what I was gonna ask. Okay, yeah. So they don't
Yeah,
want to like give you resources or like help you out at all. They just want you to be like, just do it.
They just want us to do it. Yeah, because we're taking care of the garden. So I mean, we should do that, right? And yes, we should be engaging community, but then you got to pay for the staff to do it, right? So that's been kind of a challenge. And then, you know,
So
ultimately at the end of the day,
that's being seen as like legitimate? Is that what you think it is?
yeah, I think, well, it's hard because like we've been in the game for so long that like we kind of know, I know how to approach it now, right? Like I know how to talk the talk, we know how to do it. But definitely in the beginning, it was like, and even within Oakland Leaf, like the garden program at one point got 90% cut from the budget.
Wow.
90% of our budget was cut. It was just me working 2 hours a day, 2 hours a week, just to like maintain, you know, and so yeah, definitely I had to really work hard to show the value of the program within our org. And then when we go to like, we've approached other schools about like taking over their gardens, because schools are always, you know, basically the way it goes at schools is like you get one staff who's really excited and they take on a lot of the work, and then maybe that person transitions and then nothing happens, right? The garden just turns to weeds. And so so we've approached a lot of schools, you know, that are kind of in that situation, and again, they're super excited to have us do it, but they don't want to pay.
But in the long run, it's like, yeah, and they don't want to do the maintenance.
They don't want to pay for the actually what's going to be needed to do it well.
Okay.
Yeah, and I do think some of that's like legitimacy, right? It's like we don't necessarily value.
Well, I think it also applies, like, I feel like it's the same group as like the arts. It's a legitimate thing. It's therapeutic. It's needed for people in the low income areas, especially like I feel like green space, because it helps you spiritually, helps you mentally, helps you physically. There's a lot of factors in it, but it's not seen as legitimate. It's not seen as necessary, which is a problem.
It's like extra, yeah.
All right. And then what about parents? Like, what's your experience with parents? Do parents ever show interest in the program or like engage in that, or?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, parents are definitely super excited. At Ascend, in the beginning, we had like groups of parents that wanted to kind of come and work in the garden. But again, like I couldn't facilitate that work because I just didn't have the capacity. So that, you know, that's a missed opportunity. I think that was something that could have been really cool if we had like figured out how to do that. What we had done at Ascend and at some of our other schools was hold like produce stands as part of our distribution efforts, where we were selling the produce at super low cost. We were basically selling everything for $1, and
Wow.
people were super hyped. Like, people would come, we would sell out quick. People would line up, they'd wait for it. We even started teaching people to like bring bags, so we stopped using plastic, and it was like a really cool way to engage community, to get families engaged. We had students who were in our after school classes selling to the parents, and I thought that was a really fun model and a fun program, as a way to engage parents. One thing that we haven't done that I think we need to do better is our intern families, so our high school students, engaging them, and maybe doing it around like a meal. So like at Castlemont, we have an outdoor kitchen. We could potentially create like a farm to table meal for all of our interns and their families, and they could sit down and we could just like, engage like that.
That'd be a
I
really
think that
fun
would be
event.
really cool.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. Okay, see, it sounds like you
Yeah.
guys like try to work to get parents engaged.
I
Or you
mean,
just
we
have to.
recognize that it's big, right? Because like we can teach the students about how to eat healthy, about recycling and composting and all these things, but ultimately, like, their parents are the ones who are buying the food, making the dinner, and so it's like, yes, some of them can teach their parents and they can talk to their parents about it, but the biggest impact is to engage the whole family.
Yeah, I never knew how unhealthy my family's eating habits were until I left to college. And I like
Hmm.
left my family and I was like, wow. Almost, they say like the 15, what's it called, freshman 15, how you gain weight.
Yeah.
I lost weight.
Yeah.
I lost weight. And I was not eating healthy at that time either, let me tell you.
Yeah. That's serious. That's crazy. It's cool that you kind of had that revelation too, right?
Yeah. Okay. And then I wanted to go on to another topic here. Is the last topic I have. So as I told you about my original goal, how like I wanted to do something similar to what you guys were doing, educate the youth, create your own little farms in the concrete jungle of Oakland,
Yeah.
um, help out low income families and whatnot. But I was reading articles, and it sounds like there's been issues with gentrification because there's been a lot of food
Yeah.
activists who have been trying to achieve what you guys have been doing, and in turn their goal was to help like the native Oakland people who've been there long term and like those low income families. But in actuality, it's bettering the neighborhoods and it's actually bringing in more gentrification as a result. And that's been like a recent struggle that Oakland's been struggling with. So like,
Yeah.
what are your thoughts on that?
I think that that's really cool that you found that through your research. Like, I'd actually be really interested in learning a little bit more about the specifics to kind of what you're saying. Like, were there specific orgs that you guys identified as kind of, I don't know, was there any specifics? That's really intriguing to me because I would just say yes, like we all kind of know that's happening, but I didn't realize that there was articles about it and stuff.
There's actually a lot of articles. I read like 3 or 4 articles right now that are talking about how there's a bunch of food programs because of the whole food swamping thing, and it's just it seems like the root of the issue is just the high rent costs because there are
Yeah.
programs like there's a lot of cafe like there was a cafe and a burger shop that was like funded from Oakland natives, and like they work with the community and they try to like provide extra food and resources and all that too. And there's other food ones that are similar to Oakland Leaf where like they have gardens and they create food and they try to help people by trying to pay them as high as they could and like even offer helping with like them figuring out their housing situation because there's a lot of people becoming homeless in Oakland right now, like long-term
Yeah,
Oakland natives,
totally.
because it's so
Yeah.
expensive. But
Yeah.
no matter what, like even raising the prices and trying to help them figure that out and give them like long-term jobs and like, letters of recommendation, it's not enough just because the price of Oakland is so expensive that these programs like they're trying to help, but it's not enough. And then with the healthier foods being available and the better cafes and all that, it's also gentrifying the neighborhoods where like it's making neighborhoods look nicer and they're having more community.
Totally.
So in turn, instead of helping the long-term natives, like it's bringing in all these other people who are like, wow, look at this neighborhood. It's starting to come up.
Yeah,
There's a cafe around
I
the
want to live
corner.
here.
That
Totally.
type of stuff. That's what I read it from, pretty much. Yeah.
It's such a trip. I mean, yeah, like I remember when Jack London Square was like all just warehouses. There were no condos down there. There was none of this like Brooklyn Basin, you know. So like through my life, I've seen the city transform significantly. But even in the last 10 years, you see it coming like east, right? It started in West Oakland, went downtown, and it's creeping east. And I agree, gentrification is hella real. It's happening. I don't know. We don't really do much specific to it except just talk about it, you know, because we're in the schools. So I feel like, you know, people who are maybe like reclaiming unused land, and then through that, it's gentrifying the neighborhoods. Like, it's hella tragic and sad because it's like ultimately not what the goal was, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's not what the goal was for a lot of activists. But they're trying in their certain ways, and that's why I was asking. I was like, have you guys seen that? Have you guys like worked your way? Because I know like some have helped people find like homes, like homeless people. They've gotten them jobs in the program and tried to help them find homes. They've have an increase in pay for people so that they could have better affordable living for long term. Like
Yeah.
they specifically give long term like Oakland natives seniority in certain things to try to help them
Okay.
be able to stay, you know?
That's tight. Yeah. I'm not aware of that. That's a really cool concept. I like that idea. It just makes me think about Planting Justice. Are you familiar with that organization?
No. Mm-mm.
Okay, you should probably check them out. They're doing really dope work with formerly incarcerated people and plant and housing and stuff. Um, I mean, yeah, like sadly, like we don't really have anything. I can't speak to it. The gentrification, you know. I
Yeah,
mean, all I can say is like we really have within our org, we've really tried to create living wages for all of our staff. It's way above the minimum wage. And then also like cost of living increases for all of our staff. And for our interns, like incentives to have them continue within programs, so they're paid for their time. And a second year intern makes more than a first year. A third year makes more than a second year. And folks who've been in program for 4 years can get a job, basically get paid hourly, while they're still in high school. So like we're trying to do things like that, but in terms of the bigger gentrification stuff, there's not really much I can speak to.
okay. I was just curious to see like if people were aware of it, but it sounds like it's still like really fresh and new right now, and like articles and whatnot.
Yeah, I mean it's definitely it's visible. Like you see it in the neighborhoods, right? Like vegan donut shops in the neighborhood. You're like, what is this place? Like, what are these guys selling? Why are they in this neighborhood? That kind of stuff. More white people in the neighborhoods jogging and walking their babies and stuff. But you know, still a
Have you
lot
seen?
of suffering and a lot of pain.
I'm sorry. What were you saying?
No, I'm just saying like Oakland's still hella raw, right? Even though it's hella gentrifying, there's still so much tragedy and suffering. So we're in a really, you know, homelessness is super prevalent right now, and it's obvious because of the gentrification.
It's getting bad. I grew up in Jingletown next to the Alameda Bridge and the recycling center.
Yeah.
And I have a lot of family and friends down there, so I drive down there often. And I recently drove to McDonald's at the Fruitvale station just to get something. And oh my God, it was a tent city. It was a tent city over there. Like they blocked off the freeway entrance that used to be there. And so it was just rode up with RVs and hella different tents.
Yeah.
And like, I think, you know, there's a Home Depot there, so there's a lot of immigrants that kick it there. I think there's homeless
Yeah.
immigrants that are there as well. So it's like a hangout spot for homeless people. And it was just, I don't know, man, it was bad. I was just sitting there like,
It's
wow.
crazy.
Wow.
I mean, you never would have seen that. Yeah, you never would have seen it 5 years ago. And it just kind of, it's like you feel like you're in a different country. Like, it's like slums, like you're saying, tent cities, and these are our people who are displaced, you know, are old, like, and it's really hard to see how many elders are living on the streets.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you guys do any engagement with the homeless, or it's just students, huh? It's just students, or
Just youth. But you know, the more we're talking right now, it's like that we need to take our work there. Like, we definitely need to figure that out. The challenge I think we probably encounter is that a lot of homeless folks can't necessarily prepare meals, right? They don't necessarily might not have like the resources to like cook or do that. So it's like, then what do we do? Because that's why we're like all about giving the food to folks who need it. But if people can't cook it and prepare it, then how do we kind of pivot and adjust?
do you guys have like a little food truck?
Yeah, right.
That's thinking big though. That's thinking really big, but
Yeah.
I don't know. All right.
Yeah.
I have one more question. What was it? I forgot. Got off the topic. I can't remember it. It is what it is. It's okay. All right. And what is your exact? What is?
You can always email me if you want. Don't stress.
Okay, thank you. And what is your position? What is your exact position in this program, by the way? Because if you've been there for 15 years, I'm assuming that you're pretty high up.
Well, so I'm the program manager of Love Cultivating Schoolyards, which is our school-based garden program.
Okay. Okay. Oh, I remember the last question. So like, in regards to gentrification, I'm assuming you've seen there's been changes amongst the youth. I'm assuming you've seen different, like, yeah, like demographically, you've seen like probably like a much more, you probably see much more white kids. You probably see much more higher class people, I guess you could say. Have you also seen like maybe a lower class people, like more people are becoming homeless, more families are starting to struggle? I know it's harder with COVID and keeping your community, but I just wanted to ask.
Yeah, it's a great question. Honestly, in our program, we have not seen any changes. There have been no real demographic shifts. And I think that's probably because of the schools that we're in. Like, our schools, for the most part, aren't gentrifying right now. You know, our schools are in the flatlands. But one of our schools, which is Bret Hart, it's like a little bit more in the hills.
It's right next to Sequoia. Yeah.
Yeah, right near Sequoia. So that school's demographics have definitely changed. But we, you know, that's a middle school, so we only teach, you know, one class there a week. So, but I think homelessness within, I can't really speak to it, to be honest. I can't.
Okay.
Because, yeah, I mean, our demographics are the same as what they were 10 years ago.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
All right. Well, do you have anything else you would like to say? Because I already asked all my questions.
No, I just would be interested to read your paper. If you know, if you finish it, you could send it. I would love to read it. And you know, anything else, like your takeaways, you know, like what do we need to do? What should we be doing? What should we be focusing on in this work?
Like my takeaway, my opinion on that?
Yeah, I mean, just like, you know, you don't have to tell me right now. I'm just saying, like, it would be cool to learn after, when you finish your project, to hear about it, and I'm sure you'd have some things to teach me. Since you're in academia, your fingers on the pulse, you know?
Yeah. I'll definitely send you my paper when I'm done. Definitely gonna have some quotes from you because I had to do an interview. I'll send my research. I'm also interested in knowing, because I'm graduating soon, and I actually want to move back to Oakland because I'm in Sacramento and it's really dry out here.
Hot.
It's really dry. Not even that, just the people. It's like, it's not the same as the Bay. I don't know how to explain it. It's not the same.
Yeah, I hear that.
So I'm trying to like network into finding jobs out there, but I don't know how you guys are with COVID, because I know it's really changed things, and like your program's very hands-on. and you can't really be. I mean, I don't know. What's it like for you guys right now? Like with the
Yeah, we're in the gardens. We've been in the gardens. We took a little break, you know, in like April of last year, like March, like right when things really got like shut down around the country. But we quickly got back out there because people needed the food. Our food was ready to harvest. We didn't want to let it just rot. So we've adapted. We have interns working in the gardens. So yeah, we're running program. I mean, it's just scaled down, you know, and it looks different a little bit, but we're still doing it. I think, yeah, if you're, you know, when you graduate and you want to come back and look at Oakland Leaf, see if Oakland Leaf's hiring. Oakland Leaf's a dope org. I really like the work that we do.
yeah,
But
plus
yeah,
I'm
I mean, check
learning.
out.
Like I'm working at a plant shop, a really big plant shop in Sacramento. I started in January, and like basically my job is to know everything about plants. I'm an outside salesperson. If you need help with identifying a plant, figuring out a disease, what's the right plants to plant for harvesting in certain months, I have to know it all. And I've been learning a lot, and I want to get more into it. So that's why I was asking.
Cool.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, totally. Yeah, I mean, reach back out after you graduate.
Okay. Well, all right, Matthew. I will send you my paper when I'm done, and I'll probably give you some notes too about my opinion about your program.
Cool. Yeah, I mean, let me know. We can always be better. We can always improve. So it's all good.
All right. Thank you so much, Matthew. Thank you.
For sure. It's nice. Yeah, thanks for reaching out. And yeah, hopefully, you know, we stay connected, and I look forward to reading your paper. Good luck graduating. Congratulations.
Thank you, man. I need it. I need
Yeah,
it.
it's huge. It's huge. You're almost there.
All right. Well, it was nice meeting you.
You too. Take
You
it
have a
easy.
good rest of your week. Bye.
Thanks.